Hi, my name is Amy. Welcome to my booktube channel. And the book we're talking about today is Josh Malerman's Incidents Around the House. This was published in, checking my notes here, November 2024, and it is 385 pages long if you've got the print version. I actually listened to it as an audiobook, and it worked. And just as a brief note on that, at first I found the voice a little bit annoying for reasons I'll explain shortly, but I got used to it pretty quickly and it was fine. Incidents Around the House, if you haven't read it, it is all told from the point of view of an 8-year-old girl, Bella, and this is in first person. Bella is how they pronounce it on the book, or on the audiobook, sorry. It's actually spelled Bela, which is like Bela Lugosi. I don't know if that's an intentional reference to Lugosi or not. But this is a deeply creepy book. It is a flawed book, I will say. Not anything a good editing couldn't have fixed, and unfortunately it didn't get that good editing, I have to say. Whether that was a professional editor's fault, the author's fault, I don't know. I think it just needed a little bit of shortening. I think there were places, if they'd been cut, it would have worked better, but I'm kind of jumping ahead here. So, Incidents from Around the House, as I say, it tells the story of 8-year-old Bella, entirely from her first-person point of view, and she lives seems like a perfectly ordinary life with Mummy and Daddo. They live in a nice home. They seem to be a happy, normal family. Except, this is a horror film. You didn't expect everything to be great. Often, it doesn't seem to be every night, but it's very, very frequent and increasingly frequent that out of Bella's closet, she doesn't live there, but she comes from there, is other mommy. And that, as we find, is what this creature, and it is very much a creature, Malerman never actually says, nor does Bella, say what it is, but we're given to understand it is probably some kind of demonic, maybe elemental creature. I would lean more toward demonic, personally, for my money. But, that's a bit of taxonomic splitting of hairs, I suppose, in this case. And in a way, it doesn't matter because this thing is so malevolent, so sinister and horrible. Because other mommy befriends Bella when when Bella is a very young child. And it's only now that she's hitting about the age of 8 that she's just Bella is starting to become suspicious of other mommy. Not least because almost every night, other mommy sits on the edge of Bella's bed and asks, "Can I go into your heart?" And honest to God, when that line first came out, it did send a chill right through me. I thought of every child I have ever known, especially my nephew and nieces. My nephew in particular, who is not that much younger than Bella in the story. I thought of myself as a child, and you can't help but, because so many of us as children have that fear of the monster in the closet, the monster under the bed. These are such typical, almost cliche childhood fears. Only in Bella's case, she is very right to feel this way because other mommy comes out of the closet to ask this. Now, sometimes other mommy hides in the bathroom. At first, she's more just in the closet and in Bella's room. As things go along, though, very quickly, Other Mommy either gains the power to go further afield than that, or just decides to start acting on that. That's never clear. That's, I think, something that the characters themselves never know, and it's certainly never addressed, as to why suddenly Other Mommy has this sort of greater range. She turns up at the park where Bella is and frightens her badly enough that she falls and hurts herself, and actually is taken to see the doctor about this. And she's okay, but she could have hurt herself pretty badly because she falls quite a distance. And it's this very sinister creature, and the more we learn about it, and it comes out slowly over the course of the novel, and I'm going to try not to spoil it too much, particularly since this is a fairly recent novel. I always feel like the moratorium for spoilers is about 30 years. If a book's or film's been out for 30 years or more, you've had an opportunity, most likely, to watch it, to read it, whatever. So spoilers are less of an issue. Just a couple of years, though, not even 2 full years, I'm going to be more careful. So we do find out drips and drabs about, as the story goes along, of what Other Mommy is like. And she is repugnant. She is hairy. She has a rotten smell. Bella at one point says that Other Mommy smells like, and I more or less quote, the dead mouse that the cat found in the garage. And if you've ever smelled a dead rodent, you know just what a nasty, disgusting smell that is. She changes shape, and I'm saying she just because that's how Bella thinks of her. But she changes shape, she changes appearance, she learns to mimic, and she becomes very much a more and more skilled mimic, which is, of course, hugely dangerous and problematic as the story goes along. And that can I go into your heart business coming from this horrible creature is just, I mean, it's devastating in so many ways. And at first, it's just Bella who knows about it. But then there's a party that the family has, just a party of Bella's parents' friends coming over. And one of the party guests sees something, and then it begins to sort of transpire, come out more and more and more that Bella has seen something. And of course, at first, her parents just think, it's just, childhood thing. But then one night, shortly after the party, not too long after the party, Bella's mother comes in to check on her and sees Other Mommy. And of course, has a complete freak out, grabs Bella, they run out of the house, they get away. And then there's this sort of protracted period in the novel where I think purely understandably, the family avoids the house and desperately seeks some kind of help. But at the same time, there are aspects of that part that I do think could have been condensed. Because, and I'm not the only one to think this, certainly there are reader reviews that say the same thing, that sort of middle section of the book does start to drag quite a bit in places. But it's worth it, and stick with it because it does pull itself back together. Now, they try all kinds of different sources of potential help. They go to the church, they go to a kind of sensitive who says she'll try to help them and brings in her sort of spiritualist group to try and help them, though arguably they make it worse and the church just flat out refuses to help. They find a sort of demonologist guy to come out to the house and do a sort of vigil to try and capture this thing or whatever. And that doesn't pan out. And one of the things that I liked very much actually about this novel, even where it drags a bit, is that they're quite right. And I think they actually say at one point in the story, I think her dad is the one who says this, there's such an interest in ghost hunting nowadays, in the paranormal and all of that. It's becoming much more sort of acceptable, even mainstream, to have an interest in these things. But when you actually have to deal with it, when you are actively endangered potentially by some paranormal, supernatural, malevolent thing, and I'm not saying all paranormal or supernatural things are malevolent, but in the case of Other Mommy, she's absolutely 100% malevolent. What do you do? Where do you go? How do you stop it? How do you get help? And, there isn't any sort of source for that, really. You can try, but the odds are you're not going to get any help. You are very much stuck. You are very much on your own in this situation. And, all right, so I'm going to be a bit spoilery here now, because there's no other way that I know of to do this. So if you don't want to listen to what happens at this point, you can tune out whenever you're ready. I'll pause here and there, and when you decide you've had enough, and if you just want to hear the whole thing, go for it. And so I'll try and put up some sort of thing on the screen that says, spoiler. But eventually, as their sort of last-ditch solution to try and stop this creature, the spiritualist woman who they've become sort of, I wouldn't say friends with, but certainly have become allied with, she sort of comes to this sort of theoretical conclusion that they need to make Bella less appealing, that they cannot outrun this thing, they cannot hide from this thing, it is attached to Bella, it will find a way to find them, to follow them wherever they go, potentially forever or until Bella says yes. And obviously they don't want Bella to say yes, about the can I go into your heart business. So they decide the only solution is to make Bella less appealing. And they think that the best way to make Bella less appealing is to make her lose innocence. They think this thing is drawn to her innocence, and the best way to get rid of it is to make Bella less innocent. And so they go way, way away to where they think that Other Mommy can't find them, for at least temporarily. Hopefully they can get away from her for a while, but they can never permanently outrun her. And they go out to sort of this lake, and they camp out on the lake shore. And Bella's parents tell her about how their family came to be. That her mother was married to this other man, that she cheated on him all the time, that it was actually this was when she met Bella's daddo, which is what she calls him, and they start having an affair, and then her mother says, but she was still sleeping with her husband. And one day she realizes she's pregnant, and she is convinced it is not her husband's, but she has a DNA test just to make sure. And just when she's ready to tell him, she finds out it is her husband's. So she tells her husband that she's pregnant. He's delighted, but then she can't keep away from this other guy that she's seeing. And when her husband finds out that she's seeing another man, even though she's able to show him that the baby she is pregnant with is his child, he says, I don't want anything to do with you, I don't want anything to do with the baby, and walks out on her. And Daddo steps up and says, you know what? I don't care that it's not my flesh and blood child. I love you. I want to be with you. Let's get married. I will be this baby's father in every way that matters. And he is. And that's the thing. I really have a real problem with this being the deep, dark secret that's going to destroy Bella's innocence, because it's not a pretty story, and we actually get strong hints pretty much from the beginning that Bella's mother is cheating on her current husband. Her mother just seems to be a philanderer, shall we say. And obviously that is problematic, but that's not Bella's fault. And the fact that Dado is not her biological father, I don't understand. I personally don't understand why Bella finds it that upsetting. And honestly, I find it kind of misogynistic that this is the thing that is going to destroy, this knowledge is what's going to destroy Bella's innocence and is going to release her from other mommy, that this is going to be such a profound secret, such a profound, horrible thing. Because it feels like, honestly, it feels like slut shaming. And I think that's pretty gross. And while I do recognize that there is a whole school of thought that horror is quite a conservative and reactionary genre, I don't think it has to be. And I think this is an example where it doing that really does not work. And I would question why Malerman, his editor, everybody involved in the production of this novel felt that this was the thing that would destroy Bella's innocence. Because honestly, there are lots of families that have stories of like this one or exactly like this one as far as who someone's father is. And if I were Bella and found out that this man who is not my biological father has stepped up and become a beloved dado to me, I would love him more, even at that young age. So I think this is the icky part of this, okay? But maybe, in a way, the book agrees. Maybe this is what Malerman's going for, is ultimately, big spoiler, that is not going to release Bella from other mommy's attentions. Other mommy is still after her, and it's not long after this whole big protracted scene where we get the mother's backstory of her philandering and Bella's parentage and all of that, and they return home, that we get the final big showdown where other mommy, comes in, and I won't say everything here, but she eventually gets Bella alone in the house. We don't know whether mommy and dado are dead, knocked out, whatever it is. But when this time, big spoiler alert, when she says, "Can I go into your heart?" a defeated, desperate Bella says yes. And if the book had ended exactly there, that would have been the most chilling end ever, in my opinion, because this is a child who is effectively going to give up her body and see her soul shunted who knows where. But what happens is, rather than stopping there, we get a little further. We see a glimpse of where Bella goes, and it is pretty horrific, the insinuation that someday Bella may do this same thing to another child. And you have to wonder, did other mommy start out as a child who was tricked in a similar way? It's grim, though. It is really grim. So cut that. It is really grim and disturbing. Now, I will say, we're done with spoilers. Okay. I will say I really, really enjoyed the book. I was gripped by it for the whole duration of the audiobook. As I say, I was a little annoyed at first, although I got used to it. The way that the performer did a little girl's voice, sort of like this. And then would talk in a normal adult voice for mommy, daddo, the grandmother, various other characters who come in here and there. But she does a little girl's voice like this, and I found it a little annoying. But not not enough to not listen. And I love a good audiobook. I certainly am happy to sit and read a good book, and obviously am going to sit and read books all the time, and we will talk about those as well. But I do love an audiobook these days because I can be doing other things while listening to it. And I have a lot on my plate, so it's lovely to just listen to a story being read to me while I'm working around the house. And this one kept me gripped. And I'll put it this way. I found this book creepy enough that normally when I'm listening, particularly listening to an audiobook, a lot of times when I'm getting ready for bed at night, I'll obviously at night, when I'm getting ready for bed, I will put it on in the bathroom, and I'll be brushing my teeth, washing my face, all that sort of stuff, lotions and potions and whatnot, and I'll be listening to some more of the book before bedtime. Not this one, because I did not want to hear about a little girl with a thing in her closet just as I was getting ready to go to bed. It was a little bit on the nose for me. And ironically, I don't even have a closet in my bedroom. I just have a freestanding wardrobe, armoire. So that's how creepy it was. And I've got a very high threshold. I write horror. I steep myself in horror at least 60 to 70% of the day, if not more. And I can handle a lot, but this story really did. It creeped me out. And I think very much because it was about a child and this demonic figure. Honestly, in some ways, in that sense, I think probably because it's told from Bella's point of view, and in first person. I saw this, I hear this. Actually, it's first person present, so it's, I see this, I hear this, that kind of thing. In case you aren't sure what first person point of view means. And I think that adds to it in a way that even a story like, the novel of The Exorcist, which I read a few years ago now and absolutely loved. I grew up, this tells you a lot about me. I grew up watching the film The Exorcist, but only finally got around to reading the novel about 4 or 5 years ago. And that novel did not scare me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, but I did not find it terrifying. And we will talk about The Exorcist at some point, book and film, I think, because they are worth talking about. But even though it's about a child and a demonic figure, potentially, the devil himself, because it's not told, I think, from Reagan's point of view, but rather from a kind of third person omniscient or occasionally third person limited from, one of the adults around her, it's just not as scary. This being told entirely from Bella's point of view is what really made it deeply creepy. And so if you're looking for something really, really, this is a good one for you. Now, just FYI, there is no, as I record this video in April of 2026, there is no film adaptation of it, but as of the time I'm recording this video in April of 2026, I'm not sure when it'll be on YouTube, but I'm recording it in April of 2026. There is no adaptation of the film. However, they are working on one, and it is due out in, the US, Canada, the UK, and Turkey. This is according to IMDb, Internet Movie Database, imdb.com. Not a sponsor, I'm just mentioning it because they're a great source of information on film and television. And anyway, the adaptation of Incidents Around the House, which is currently titled Other Mommy, is due out on the 9th of October of 2026. So, in the run-up to Halloween. It stars Jessica Chastain, Karen Allen, presumably is, well, actually, I don't know who she's playing, but Karen Allen is in Marion from Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Indiana Jones films. Arabella Olivia Clarke will be playing Bella, and it will be directed by Rob Savage, and the screenplay will be by Nathan Elston, and yes, Elston, and it's being done by Atomic Monster and Blumhouse. So, and with via Universal Pictures. So, it's got a good pedigree. I hope will be good, and I love an adaptation. As a film scholar, as a novelist, as just a fan, quite frankly, I've always found adaptations really interesting, and sometimes the film is not as good as the book. More often than not, that argument can easily be made. Occasionally, adaptations will come and fix some of the little things that maybe bothered a reader about the novel. And this, I'm hoping, is one such time. Not least because films just don't have time to fool around with these long, involved sort of things. Like this journey all over the place, trying to find help, trying to find a way to figure out what's going on. They just don't have time to do this, and it would drag, is the honest truth in most cases. So that may fix what happens, and I'll be very curious to see how they handle the end. I won't say why. If you've listened already to the spoilery section, you know why I'm saying this. But I will be very curious to see what they do with that. So that's everything I have to say for now about incidents from around the house. I have toyed with doing some kind of a rating system for this, not as in PGG, 18, any of that sort of stuff, but as in, how much I liked it. And in terms of this one, and I thought, well, if this is all horror, it should be out of ghosts, instead of stars. So out of a 5 ghost rating, honestly, it depends on my mood. 3.5 to 4 ghosts. 4 if I'm, really feeling generous and rounding up. I do feel like there were enough issues with this story that it doesn't deserve necessarily 4 ghosts. But I think because it's really just about, it just needed to be trimmed a bit, edited a bit more sort of harshly. The sort of kill your darlings idea of writing and editing in particular. And it just didn't happen here. That's why I think it's 3.5, but 3.5 to 4, 3.75 ghosts. Let's just split the difference. So yeah, incidents around the house, read it, listen to it, and maybe, when it comes out in October, go and see it. And when it comes out, I will make a point of getting to the movies if it's available in my area. I will make a point of going to see it and giving you a review of the film, because I cannot wait to see how they do this one. Right, so that's all from me for now. Have a great rest of your day, and do come back. Be sure to remember to like this video, to subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out, makes it possible for me to keep doing this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.